everybody, and thank you all for being here. My name is Hayden Floro, and this presentation is my Threshold Performance Project. So, without further ado, I'm gonna get excited and get ready to present Building the Complete Theater, the Musical Theater Percussionist. I'd like to start with a performance of New York, New York from On the Town, which is Leonard Bernstein's first musical. So, enjoy.
Hey, fellas, how was your day in New York?
project, I've been exploring a central question within percussion performance and pedagogy. What does it actually take to survive and thrive in a pit? And how can it be taught, most importantly? Most percussion training programs focus heavily on orchestral repertoire, solo literature, and percussion ensemble things, which is great. It's all needed, it's all important. While those areas are essential, right, to well-rounded percussion education, musical theater performance introduces a different set of skills and demands that are often not addressed directly with traditional percussion curriculum. The percussionist in a pit orchestra must be stylistically versatile, technically flexible, physically organized, and this is an important one, highly collaborative. My goal with this lecture recital is to explore the skills that allow percussionists not just to play in the pit, but function effectively within a theatrical environment. After a brief analysis of what makes musical theater different, I'll outline 4 core pillars that emerged from my research and performance experience. The first being stylistic literacy. The second, stamina and consistency. The third, really good one, mastering the quick change. And 4, collaboration. Then I will conclude with a summary of how to apply all of these pillars. Throughout the presentation, I'll demonstrate some of these ideas through performance excerpts and from several different musicals. Before we get to those pillars and all that fun stuff, it's helpful to first consider what makes musical theater percussion distinct from other percussion performance settings. Like I said, what makes musical theater different? For many of us percussionists, our training often emphasizes specialization on particular instrument setup, marimba, snare drum, I really like timpani, those kind of things. With musical theater, it operates very differently. You gotta do it all. You have to do it all. A single percussion book might require the performer to make quick auxiliary changes, not might, it will. Like between drum set, mallet instruments, hand percussion, auxiliary instruments, and various theatrical Foley effects. Sometimes you're the bop on the head, sometimes you're the giant's footsteps. It happens, and you gotta be able to do that. Another key difference with musical theater is it's a live, dramatic environment. And that means the performance can change every night. And it should. It should be a different audience, a different show. It shouldn't be this, because then it's like, you know. Now, when you get to like Broadway, it is the same, but it is loose in a way where it can ebb and flow, and that's where that flexibility comes in. Flexibility is crucial. Tempos may shift depending on the conductor. You know, you're tired one night, it's like, man, this song's fast. It's not, especially when you're playing with a click. I don't know, has anybody ever played to like a click before, night after night, and it's like, that second night or that third night, it's like, man, this doesn't feel the same. That is so real, because you know, you're tired, you have a long day, and then you get to the work, and it's like, just a little bit different. So yeah, tempos may shift. Singers may take more time in certain moments. Dialogue, pacing can vary, and occasionally something unexpected happens. You know, Sally lost her shoe, and we have to vamp, and we're vamping, and we're still vamping, and we're still vamping, and oh God, and there we go, right? And so you gotta be ready and flexible. In addition to the logistical demands, musical theater repertoire also spans remarkably with the range of musical styles, right? Within a single show, a percussionist might encounter some jazz, some folk, some Latin, some rock, classical, you know, you get some timpani, you get some triangle, highly stylized theatrical writing, right? Because of this, stylistic awareness becomes one of the most important skills for a pit percussionist, any percussionist. All of you should be aware of that. To demonstrate this, I'd like to perform an excerpt from the musical Bright Star. Has anybody heard of Bright Star? So this show is a little bit different. This show draws heavily on American folk and bluegrass traditions, and the percussion writing reflects that musical language. While this is not a style I prefer to play or really like listen to, it's important to be fluent, and hear me, and fluent in all languages when it comes to musical theater percussion. And I say languages because music is a language, right? So when you come from different areas, you know, from bluegrass to jazz, there's like a correlation there. It's still swinging. It's just a little bit different, right? So enjoy. If you knew my story from Bright Star. Yeah, so, all right. So, let me see, where was it? Okay, so there in that part, right, a lot of it was, eighth notes, quarter notes, and it's written just like you think. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. But you have to understand what they're trying to say. It doesn't say swung eighth notes. It doesn't say anything like that. It just says 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And you got to know that it's 1, 2, and 4, 5, 5, 5. And you just have to interpret that and make sure that that's what's coming across. You don't want to show up and go 1, 2, and 1, 2, and then you're like, oh God, what do we do? How do we fix that, right? So the first pillar we're going to talk about and dive into is stylistic literacy. One of the things that quickly becomes clear when preparing musical theater repertoire is that the score alone rarely captures the full stylistic expectation of the music. The score is not enough, right? I'm not saying make it up, but I'm saying that most of the time, they write this thing, and how many of your friends like compose things? And they ask you, they go, hey, if I'm writing for drums, what do you want? And they write something and you kind of, like, oh, there's like all this black ink and it's like really specific, or they're like, I'll give you the slashes and you kind of figure it out. That happens all around. There's some shows that are all written out perfectly, you gotta play it just like that, and some are like, rock groove. It's like, what is that? Do I know what that is, right? In many cases, the percussionist could perform exactly what is written and still miss a stylistic character. You play it and you're like, I did it right, and then at the end, the guy's like, could you do something more at measure 7? You're like, but I just played everything right. Flexible, right? Because of that, one of the more important preparation tools with musical theater percussionists, all music, is listening. Listening to cast recordings, orchestral recordings, live performance helps clarify questions that you might have. You read it, it goes, a la Steve Gadd. Do you guys know who Steve Gadd is? Right? If you don't, you'd be like, I need a Steve Gadd for this song. I don't have one. Michael, do you have a Steve Gadd I can borrow? No. It's a dude. You got to listen to him. And that's what it sounds like. Oh, right? Embarrassed. Don't do that. Don't reinvent the wheel, right? Listen to the recordings. Listen to things. Now, if there isn't a recording, sometimes I'm doing a show at the Playhouse in Cincinnati. It's called Tenderly, and it's all these jazz standards, but the arrangements, there's no recordings of. So I have to go and I have to listen to the actual tunes that they're based on and use my reading chops to just understand where they want to do that little thing here and there, right? So those are some things that you gotta have to navigate. But yeah, don't reinvent the wheel. Listen to recordings and music. Bluegrass, it's hard sometimes, I understand, but you gotta do it, If you want to gig, you gotta do it, right? So a lot of questions, what's the groove being referenced, the articulation, is that appropriate, am I too loud, too soft here, those kind of things. It's also extremely important to ensure that you're working to match the style of the era of the show, right? A golden age musical versus a contemporary musical, they're going to and should feel different, okay? Not everything's a blast beat, right? Developing stylistic literacy allows percussionists to move beyond simply executing rhythms and instead contribute meaningfully to the musical language of the show. For educators, this has an important learning implication. We need to teach students not only how to play their parts, 1 and 2 and, right? No. We need to teach them how to listen critically to the music that's happening around them, right? When you look at shows like Oklahoma or Once on This Island and Hades Tower, anybody familiar with these shows, right? Oklahoma is like paycheck, 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 paycheck the whole time, right? Once on This Island is super Latin, all the hand drums, all the cowbells, all the stuff. And then Hades Town is like this weird, like jazzy kind of folk thing, right? So just saying that, it's like, what does that mean? That's what you get sometimes. The music director's like, it's like a weird jazzy kind of waltz thing. You'll hear it. Oh God, right? Yes, you will, because you listened, right? You're looking at completely different musical worlds when you're looking at this stuff. So for a percussionist in the pit, you gotta develop stylistic literacy that you can recognize and adapt to these worlds quickly and authentically. Authentically is a big one. Sometimes they say, oh, it's a Latin tune, right? It's Latin. Okay, so I'm just gonna go. Like that's not gonna fit all the time, right? So having different things in your back pocket is important. So listening for authenticity. The next pillar that I'm gonna talk about is the next pillar is stamina and consistency. defining feature of musical theater percussion is the demand for endurance, all right? Most concert repertoire lasts anywhere from several minutes to an hour. In contrast, musical theater shows / operas often run 2 or 3 hours with relatively few breaks, maybe one intermission. This creates 2 different endurance challenges. The first is physical stamina, maintaining consistent technique and sound quality over the entire evening, right? The second is the most crucial one, the mental stamina. Mental stamina is crucial for being focused, ready to play the exact right moment, staying emotionally in tune with what's happening on stage, so that we can adapt our playing all the way from the first note to the final curtain. Building strong mental endurance helps us recover quickly from mistakes, they happen, right? And ensures precise timing and consistent performances throughout the entire show, in the run of the show. Lastly, percussionists in the pit must follow the conductor. They just have to. They have to respond to the singer's cues and remain attentive to the emotional pacing on stage. It wouldn't make sense to play an extremely heavy-handed ballad tune, right? You're just like bashing on a ballad, not knowing what's going on stage, and not knowing how to apply what you're playing. It's all messy when you do that, right? You have to be able to kind of understand where you're playing. So, for this next one that I'm playing, this is from the musical Parade. This illustrates a moment where the percussionist contributes to the dramatic intensity of the show, while maintaining extremely careful technique and control. So this is Jason Robert Brown's Parade, the opening tune, Old Red Hills from Home. Now before I talk about this, and before I play it, I want you to notice that, and know that this is the first tune of the entire evening. It opens the show, and it's a snare drum feature. It just opens up, and it's just you. And if you think you're scared now, you're scared then. When the light goes, and they're ready to go, it's like, go, right? So that is one thing. And then we're talking about focus. There's a part in this, and you'll hear it, you'll know when it happens. It gets into this like weird, I don't want to say aleatoric, but it just gets in this weird moment where one piece of music is happening at the exact same time as the other, and you got to stay with one of them and not go with the other. So, woof, right? So, without further ado, Parade by Jason Robert Brown, Old Red Hills of Home. Oh, by the way, this snare, this field drum, Michael helped me fix it up. So tell me how it sounds at the end of the day. I love this thing. So enjoy. right there. Just boom, boom, boom. Just gotta be in it, with it, and keep it together. So hopefully it sounded good. As I said earlier, in addition to physical endurance, musical theater requires percussionists to think about pacing across the entire production. In concert music, we often shape the arc of a single piece. In theater, we're supporting the arc of a full narrative. That means carefully managing musical energy throughout the show. Some sections require restraint and subtlety, while others demand dramatic intensity. The next excerpt that I'll be performing is not from a musical, but from an opera that I recently did. It's Kurt Weill's Mahagoni Songspiel, which is just it's a wild, check it out, it's weird. But this still provides a contrasting musical environment and demonstrates a different kind of theatrical texture. So enjoy Mahagoni 3. The other part of the gig is schlepping theater. So get used to that. So with mahogany, you notice there's a lot of odd time signatures, bringing the intensity, and the whole thing's like 30 minutes. So it's pretty quick, but with this, you are on display. There's a lot more gear that happens for the other pieces in that opera, but it moves and you gotta be there. So one of the things, the key teaching takeaway here is to train endurance both emotionally and physically. Looking at a show like Six the Musical, which is basically 80 minutes of pop concert, right, with no intermission, you'd need to prepare differently than if you were to do like 3 hours of Les Mis, right? Yeah, exactly, it's long, it's long. Another defining skill for pit percussionists is the ability to execute rapid instrument changes, aka mastering the quick change. Many percussion books require the performer to move quickly between multiple instruments within a very short period of time. Now, especially in today's age, they're cutting the percussion book, and they're like, "Hey man, can you cover this?" Like, you're not doing anything, but you are, right? So with On the Town, actually, that was a victim of that. There was a double book, and they combined it. So that was like, dang, now you got to do both of those things. So quick changes are really, really important. Successful execution of these transitions depend heavily on the setup, the design, for spatial organization. Percussionists must carefully plan instrument placement, mallet organization, and movement pathways to ensure that transitions can occur smoothly during the performance. In many ways, pit setup design becomes a kind of physical choreography. So my process is kind of interesting. You can kind of see my artwork, yeah, show and tell. When I get a book, hey, can you do this? I get it, and I don't know if anybody's seen a musical book before. I can see if I can pull something out. But most of the time, you get a book, and you get a list of instruments, right? I don't know if anybody can see that. But drum kit, small triangle, mark tree, electronic drums, 2 tempo blocks, suspended cymbal, china cymbal, police whistle, cowbell, piccolo snare drum, pads, clave, flooded with reverb, tambourine, bicycle bell, small woods, wood block, cabasa, piatti. Small woods. Like, what are we talking about, right? So you're sitting there scratching your head, and people have ideas in their head, and they want those things. So I get this book, and I go through it, and I immediately look through and find all the instruments that I need, and then I go through the actual pages, and I see what is the most forefront important thing. And that's where I go, and I put that right in front of the conductor, right? I need to know if it's parade, where it's the parade drum the entire time, I need to be right there, and everything else can be elsewhere, right? So the big thing is having a setup and being, logistical and conceptualizing your own way. You can do it your own way. But one of the funnest things about this for me is to figure out how am I going to fit this in that zone. So what I do is I just draw it out. I like to draw, so I just kind of draw it out and figure out where things might fit, so I can kind of see it before I do it. I need that instant gratification. I gotta have it. So this does that for me. And then if you go to the next slide, this is what it is, what it turns into. So if you go back one more, the top left is Oklahoma. That one pretty much stayed the exact same. But if you, yeah, right there, pretty much the exact same. But if you look over here at Harry Potter, this was an orchestra situation, but very much like a musical. It works the exact same. There's just 12 of us, and hopefully we're all playing the right part. Harry Potter, right? So if you go to the next one, that's what I had in my mind. I was like, all right, I have a bass drum, 2 cymbals, this is, okay. And it's just kind of cluttered, but this makes sense. And then if you look at the next one, I put everything in the right place that made sense, but I still had an idea. So going into the gig, it's not, I think I need a woodblock. Oh wait, I need a triangle. Now you're just killing all the time that you have, right? Today even, I drew, I don't know where my little pad is, I drew my setup for this, so that when I got here at 10, I could knock this out quick and not have to be like, oh, I think I need no I don't, right? I just avoided all of that. So, you can tweak on, based on how you might need to move instruments, or keep adjusting and take into account the space you're given, because that's always a big deal. A lot of times you're like, yeah, you get about this square, is that good? I know it calls for 7 timpani and 4 sets of chimes. Is that good? You think you could fit right here? And it's like, oh. So that's when the electronics come into place. You get the electronic pads and stuff. But yeah, so taking the space is important. Until I have a solid design that I can use while physically setting up, I also like to research the setups that people have made. Don't reinvent the wheel. There's somebody that did this. The guy that did it on the tour, the national thing, the Broadway run, wants to talk to you. Reach out to them. Hey, I'm doing Mamma Mia. Cool, I'd love to talk to you about the little china that I use. It's a really nice one, or whatever. They love that, right? So reach out, figure these things out on your own, and teach your students to do the same, right? There's an amazing Facebook group called Musical Theater Percussion, and it's just a network of everybody from every city. You know, this week I'm playing the tour of The Wiz, and it comes to town, and you get to sign the book, and it's like, hey, Joe Blow signed this, that's cool, or we did the same gig, that's really cool. So with all things together, you know, I like to create the most efficient setup possible. So just making sure that I know where I'm gonna put my mallets and things like that. So teaching students how to think strategically about setup, organization, efficient movement, and mental mapping can dramatically reduce the stress and improve performance reliability. Finally, musical theater percussion is fundamentally collaborative. Unlike solo performance settings, the percussionist's primary responsibility is to support the larger musical and dramatic environment. That means responding constantly to the conductor, the singers, the dialogue, over the ensemble, the overall ensemble. Basically knowing who and what you're playing for. So if you get this, or that's not a personal attack, and man, I hate this guy, that's your paycheck, so watch it, right? You gotta like, okay, they might be singing softer tonight, whatever. You just gotta like deal with it. So you need to ask yourself, am I playing for singers? Am I playing under dialogue, right? And often the most important skill is knowing when not to play. A lot of times you get the ad lib. You've seen that in your music. Ad lib. What does that mean? Well, ad liberally. You do whatever you want, right? Well, that doesn't mean, you know, like in the middle of the ballad. You know, you could. It gave you permission, but you don't want to do that, right? So when not, you know, knowing when not to play, and then to demonstrate the necessary performance shifts that can occur in a single song, I'd like to perform an excerpt from Legally Blonde. Has anybody heard of Legally Blonde? The movie? Yeah. So they made a musical, and it's honestly the best music. I know it's like, what? But it is so groovy, so awesome. The percussion, I play both books, the percussion book and the drum set book. Super awesome. I'll be playing the drum set book today. So enjoy, oh my God, you guys. So as you can see, the teaching takeaway for this one is like the beginning few bars, as seen here, right, are there to set the tone. Just from the get-go, you know this is a high energy show, and you get to go all out. Compared to the excerpt here, the bottom here, where which is significantly toned down, especially the percussionist, right? We got to pull it way back to let the actors on the stage shine. This is their time to set the tone and begin establishing establishing the story. If I hadn't listened to the recording prior, I probably would have just played a lot of this the same. You know what I mean? And that is bad. Can't do that. So I might have totally overpowered the singers and ruined that second section where they're talking about the dress and all that stuff. So what's the application of these pillars? What does this mean to me or you, right? Through my blueprint and threshold work, one of my main goals has been to consider how these skills can be taught more intentionally to percussion students. Basically, how can I approach teaching this? Several strategies stand out as particularly valuable. First, encouraging score study so students understand how the percussion parts fit within the musical texture. Second, creating opportunities for confidence building through flexible collaboration and performance environments. Play alongside your students. Don't just, here's a song, learn it, and then Billy, you're not doing it right. Billy's gonna hate you and hate it, right? Get your bass, and maybe you're bad, but you just jam with Billy. And we've tried to figure out how to get that musicality happening, right? The third thing is incorporating endurance training, since pit performance requires sustained concentration and physical energy. With my students, I'll pull out a book, Legally Blonde, and we'll read 3 tunes back to back. And that's like, they're like, that's harder than any concert band piece that I've had to do, just because I've had to do this, and each one is completely different, right? So when they go to, Lincolnshire Posey or whatever, it's not as daunting of a task to play that whole thing, you know what I mean? So, and finally, helping students develop strategies for efficient pit setup design, which is one of the most practical skills a percussionist can develop. All of us have had to set things up. All of us have had to, oh wait, I need to be there. Oh wait, what are the cymbals over there? And I need, right? So having an efficient way to set things up, you doodle, you draw things, I love that. That's my favorite thing. Now, for my final reflections. In many ways, the goal of the pit orchestra is not to be noticed, but to be felt. The percussionist's role is to support the story so effectively that the audience and the atmosphere of the production, the audiences experience the atmosphere of the production without ever needing to think about it, where it comes from. The music is another character to the overall narrative of the music. It's the music cold, right? You need the music to make it happen, so it's gotta be solid. And that can only be achieved through proper preparation. Only when the percussionist is stylistically versatile, technically flexible, physically organized, and highly collaborative can the pit truly blend into the background and support the show in a way that is required. Your band is only as good as your drum. That's it. We're probably way out of time.
But does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, questions. Anything.
I've got one question. Do you have a favorite show you played?
Man, okay, so my first show that I ever did was Les Mis in high school, and it was just by accident. They just threw me in there like, you can handle it. Couldn't. But I really like that show. I think my favorite show of all time, it has to be West Side Story. It's just a really good one, especially for the kid. You get to do everything. It's really great. But I mean, honestly, they're all really good. I mean, they all have their needs. What's the one that's not good though? Say, Into the Woods is a rough one for us. Just so you know, if you ever get asked to do it, but once. Cool. Anything else? What's up?
Hi, I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about what was in your headphones and there was something special about the tracks that you were using, that the voice parts weren't as loud.
Yeah.
So can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, honestly, I just used the cast recording plugged into this speaker system, and I think we toned it down a little bit so that the music's a little bit louder than the actual words. And in my headphones, it was just what you were hearing. But yeah, so a lot of times, especially when you're doing a show, you don't get in-ears. A nice gig has in-ears. A good gig is just a monitor. A bad gig is good luck, right? So finding what to listen to, when to listen to, who to listen to, especially who to follow, right? So if there's a set player, typically the conductor is, kind of just helping out a little bit. But if it's like, something like this, you gotta be locked in with the conductor and find those little cues. So sometimes I'll go through the musical and I'll write in, the jump line is, the Old Valley Mall, boom, and we'll jump right in, and that's how I kind of keep track of But sometimes they don't say Old Valley Mall, they say Kroger, because they get nervous, and then it's like, oh, okay, that was the line. You just got to know that that's kind of what we're talking about. So, yeah, that's what I'm listening to. Anything?
Are there any tricks of the trade in terms of like volume control? 'Cause especially in like small gigs, it's probably gonna be
Yes.
that's probably gonna be way too loud.
So one of the things that happens quite often is you're too loud, 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 right? So the thing, especially like if you're playing in a room like this is very similar to what we would call a cafetorium, right? And that happens, and you get these High School Musical seasons where it's like, you know, they pay pretty well, but you're in a gym, you know? So how do you play a set that, like, you know, how do you play that and not immediately get told you're too loud? A lot of times it's different implements. Now I know some people are like, just use your dynamical abilities and play softer with the sticks. Yes, but a lot of times the director will be like, you got those green mallets, and if you don't pull those green mallets out, they're not going to get off your back. So you just use what you got to do. You're flexible. So for something I would do, and just kind of play a little bit softer, and usually that takes care of it. But sometimes it's just like, all right, I got to go softer. I got to go, and you just have to do that. You have to dig into it. The real idea, I guess, is just being able to, test the waters. And I've played shows like that should be like, and you just have to do it. So working on just your technique and stuff like that is a big help. But play, put your phone out without the jack, right? And play, with full volume. Be able to hear it. And if you can't, you're too loud. You back up. And now you can play, and you can hear the song, and I can hear the song, and we're in a whole room. And then it's like, oh, he can play dynamics. It's one of the coolest things I ever hear whenever I play or anything. They're always like, you're such a sensitive drummer, and I start to cry. No. But I take that because I'm like, that's good. Not every drummer plays soft, and you can play dynamics. That's good. They always are like that, and it's. At first I was like, okay, yeah, cool. But now I hear that all the time, and I know that not a lot of people get that. So that's a cool thing that I have. But the more that you just work towards it, it's easy. You know what good music sounds like. You get that. But anything else? What's up?
So I know you own a lot of your own equipment.
Yes.
In terms of gigs like this, what's kind of the proportion of provided equipment and how much of your own stuff?
So that's a big one. When you get a gig, a lot of times you get the gig because you got the stuff, or you've got a capability of getting the stuff. A lot of times I don't even say anything. I just say yes, and then I go, hey Mike, can I borrow a triangle? And then he's like, yeah, right? Or it's what's the space? Oh, well, we got a little square. Okay, so I just need a triangle and a wood block. I'm not going to be able to do the full thing, which stinks because a lot of the cool parts are just now cut. So it's kind of an ebb and flow. You say yes, and then you go and now they've got you, and you just kind of have to make it work. So I would start building up an instrument, owning situation. I would just start getting stuff, collecting a shaker, a triangle, a tambourine with a mount. A big thing that is super helpful is this thing right here. This is called a Miller machine. And then this little adapter is called the LP claw, and it clips onto everything. And this is a hands-free triangle. You just tap it with any implement you need, and it works. And this thing saved my butt in so many situations. So this would be a thing to get. Not sponsored, but totally worth it. Yeah, and then another thing. Did that answer your question? Cool. Last thing I'll talk about is sticks and things like that. I don't know if anybody had any questions about that, but having double-sided sticks might feel a little bit different from your typical sticks. You kind of get used to it, you work through it, but having the ability to go from snare to a suspended cymbal to timpani is really important. And I actually made my own sticks. I pulled a Lamatina and made my own sticks. And I drilled some xylophone mallets, hard xylophone mallets on one end, and then these are just like set sticks that I typically use. And then I put some moleskin on either side of the neck and the back of the stick, so that I can do, you know, or, you know, right, so, and that's what I used actually for the opera, for the chimes, because I had to do that part where it was just right after. And I tried all the things, but I dropped them, and the conductor was like, and I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. So I made these, and it worked. So that there's ingenuity too. I like to tinker. I like to mess with things and build things. So it's fun. You gotta nerd out about it too. You have to be like a total nerd about it, because then it's really fun. Yeah. So anything else? What's up?
Are we out of
Oh,
time?
I think, yeah,
Oh, okay. I would say, so you mentioned using like an electronic like patch pad. Like,
Yeah.
How do you go about like that process? And you said it's usually a space concern.
it's a space
but, yeah.
concern. Usually, you know, you get one of those Alesis pads or the Yamaha DTX 12 or whatever they are, and main stage is what I use to kind of program the sounds. And a lot of times they've got a good, you know, variety of orchestral sounds. Sometimes you can even sample your own gear, so it makes you feel better about using it. I don't know. I don't do that. I just find a sound and use it. But yeah, you just go ahead and there's a bunch of YouTube videos on how to like program the things. But bring your amp. A lot of times just have an amp. Sometimes they're like, yeah, we can plug you into the house, or say, can I plug you into the house? And they'll be like, we're in a school, and you're like, okay, yeah, never mind. Have an amp. So those kind of things are, you know, here and there. Not every show needs it, but some shows really heavily require it. You know, like Legally Blonde, there's a lot of techno sounds. It's like, how are you going to get that organically? So, yeah, awesome, y'all. Well, what's up? Last one? Oh, you're clapping. Awesome. Well, thank you guys.